This use the microphone. I can't deal with it. Oh. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sheila called me this morning, bless her sweetheart. How are you doing? And I said, I feel like I've been pulled behind a semi for a couple hundred miles. Because the flu festival is always just such a spiritual experience for me. And being out I'm getting old. I'm not out 3 nights in a row like this anymore. Once a year is what I allow myself. But did you guys hear this last week in the news that that the Catholic Church is going to start using a new wafer, a new low-fat wafer in communion? It's called, I can't believe it's not Jesus. Vicar of Dibley, if you haven't watched it, she's so irreverent. She's not disrespectful, but she's irreverent, and I just love that. I love seeing how God shows up. And humor is one of the best forms of lifting and enlightening you. So, and if you think about it, the word Abram or Abraham actually means the divine breath. And some of the things that I've been researching this weekend to bring to you is that when it says in John, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, we are the Word. And our breath and the inhale and the exhale that we do is all the divinity we really truly need. So can you imagine combining that with laughter? But the other part is that listening to the flute players this weekend, if you think about that in terms of divine breath, one of the thoughts that kept going through my mind, and if I misquoted, if anybody wants to, if they know it by heart, let me know, because I'm going to paraphrase it. And that is the words of Hafiz, the Persian poet and mystic, who said, I am the hole in the flute through which the divine breath blows. And listening to these men and women sing and all of that, and I thought, here's divine breath coming through their being. And when it combines in their lungs and joins with their heart chakra right here in the center, they are allowing us to hear their soul song. Mm-hmm. That is the sacredness of when these musicians play for us. And so it was a bang-up thing for me, I'll tell you that. Some of the things I want to share with you today are about, for those of you who read what I shared with you in the PLC Focus, I'm going to support that today. But one of the things that I thought was really fun, for those of you who have Netflix, I watched a film the other day called Queen to Play. And it is a French film. Kevin Kline plays an old bitter doctor in it. But I thought metaphorically it's just such a lovely tale. But it's a tale of a woman who comes to a place in her life where she blooms. And it's a beautiful film. But here's this little maid. She's on a French island somewhere. And her family, she's suffering from poverty, but not just poverty of financial poverty. It has actually reached its tentacles into all areas of her home. And so she is cleaning, she cleans in a hotel, and she's working for this doctor. And she knocks on the door, and she goes into this hotel room, and this couple are sitting outside on their balcony, and they're drinking champagne, and they're looking out over the beautiful ocean. And she's in a gorgeous silk lingerie, and there's romance there, and they're playing chess. And she is inspired by the beauty of that, of being allowed to see into this couple's intimacy and sharing. And so a few days later, the couple checks out, and the woman leaves her negligee behind. Well, wanting to recapture some of the romance that she was permitted to witness, she took the negligee home and she wore it, and she dolled herself up for her husband. Well, when he came home, he got into bed and went to sleep, and he didn't even see her. And so then she decides to try it from another angle. So she gets him a chessboard for his birthday. And he's not interested in that either. So she starts to play chess herself. So she gets to the point where she can't play anymore with herself and learn anything. So she goes to the doctor and she says, will you teach me how to play? because you can see that it's become an obsession with her. She wants to know what this game is about. So he teaches her, and it doesn't take very long to where she's beating him 5 out of 6 times. And he says, I want you to go to the tournament, the local tournament in town. And she says, here she is in her maid suit, and she's like, you know, I'm not ready for that. And he said, yes, you are. He said, you know, if you risk, you have the opportunity, or you may experience losing, but if you never risk, you always lose. And so I really felt that here is this beautiful little movie about this woman discovering this beautiful creative seed that's inside of her that blooms here in the middle of her poverty and completely reshapes her life. She goes to the tournament, she wins, and her husband's all over. Whoa! I mean, he is fired up, and her daughter is proud of her and brings all her high school friends to watch this woman play. But one thing is that the doctor, he introduces her to the president of the club by saying, this is my maid. And she went back over there because the man snubbed her, and she went back over there, she was furious. And she said, you did not have to introduce me like that. First of all, I'm a human being. And he said, you're absolutely right. He says, but he said, you have a gift. You have a natural talent that you don't get in books. You don't get by being taught. It is just this divine bloom inside of you that you know instinctively what chess is about. And you can do it, which is then what sends her on to the tournament. But it is such a beautiful metaphor for me to show where many of us live in the concept of what we think we are and what we can become if we become willing to risk. So with that, I want to open my talk with you by reading Philippians 2, which I think is one of my, Philippians 5 and 6, which is my favorite, it's one of my favorite biblical quotes. And it says, but 2 actually was really sweet, so I wanted to share that too. Fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being in one accord, being of the same mind. Let this mind be in you that was also in Jesus Christ, who, being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God. And I thought, this morning I was in the shower, and I thought, it is robbery for us not to think that we're God. It is robbery of our bank accounts, it is robbery in our relationships, and it is robbery in our health. In the teachings of the Masters of the Far East, which I was digging through yesterday, I found so much validation, I just loved it. It says, I am God was the unspeakable name in the ancients, or phrase, in the ancients verbiage, and it was not meant to be audible. It was meant to hold it silently within the corners of your own soul. But I am God was is the silent witness with the nature of man to the universal fact. And then this piece. It says, I'm not sure exactly where it is in the New Testament, but it says, we were made in the image and likeness of God. You guys know that one. He said that was a misinterpretation. The actual quote is, man is the image of God. That we are individualized pieces of the universe. Or that we are individual to what God is universally. So we do not serve ourselves by living small. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to do the Abraham Support Group. Because as Shayla was talking about affirmations, affirmations weren't really working for me, not like I wanted them to. I mean, I want to be like Jesus Christ. Brad, it's right there on my hand, people. I mean, that's what I'm like, hey, he could do it. I mean, hey, who's this? You know, so years ago when I was in Al-Anon, somebody handed me a little card that had all these little clear messages on it, and you were supposed to peel them off and put them on your bathroom mirror, and you put them at eye level